When you hear the name Leasel Rovedas, for many, the immediate connection is with the cricketing genius Brian Charles Lara, the man whose bat rewrote record books and whose style electrified stadiums from Trinidad to London. But behind that famous name is a woman with her own story. A story that begins not in the blinding spotlight of cricket, but in the quieter, richly cultural streets of Trinidad and Tobago, where family, faith, and tradition shaped her early years. Lisel was born into a world where community mattered. Trinidad's blend of cultures, from Indian and African heritage to European and Chinese influences, gave her a childhood filled with diversity. Carnival parades, soca rhythms, and the sense of doubles and roti were as much a part of her growing up as schoolbooks and Sunday church. She wasn't born into celebrity. Instead, she came from an environment that taught her humility, discipline, and the strength of family bonds. From an early age, she was known among her friends and family for her warmth. She wasn't loud or flamboyant, but had a quiet charm, one of those personalities that drew people in without effort. She was strikingly beautiful, in a natural, understated way, with features that spoke of Caribbean heritage. But beauty was never her only gift. She had ambition, and she had patience, two qualities that would one day make her a strong partner to one of the most celebrated sportsmen of all time. Though she lived in the same country as Lara, their worlds were very different in those early years. Lara, by the late 1980s and early 1990s, was already a rising cricket sensation, smashing records as a teenager. Lisel, meanwhile, was focusing on her education and building herself. While he was perfecting cover drives on cricket fields across the globe, she was quietly carving a life away from the cameras. But destiny, as it often does, had other plans. The meeting of Leasel Rovedas and Brian Lara was not a simple love-at-first-sight fairy tale. By the time their paths crossed in the mid to late 1990s, Lara was already a legend. He had scored his famous 375 runs against England in 1994, then broken the world record again with 400, not out in 2004. Achievements that cemented his place in cricket's pantheon. Brian Lara was not just a sportsman, he was a phenomenon. Charismatic, handsome, and with the swagger of a man who knew he was rewriting history, Lara was a magnet for attention. Women adored him, fans worshipped him, and the media followed his every move. But Lara's private life was never without drama. He was linked to different women, faced the relentless scrutiny of tabloids, and struggled at times with the weight of being a national icon. Into this whirlwind stepped Lisel. Unlike many who might have been dazzled by Lara's fame, she carried herself with calmness. She wasn't chasing headlines. She wasn't trying to ride his fame. In fact, that was part of what drew Lara to her: the groundedness, the normalcy, the way she could make him laugh and give him peace away from cricket's chaos. Their relationship blossomed gradually. They were spotted together at social gatherings, at cricket matches, and at family events. For Brian Lara, Lisel became more than a partner. She became a sanctuary, the family they built. Love stories in the public eye are never easy, especially when one half of the couple is as famous as Brian Lara. But Leasel Rovedas handled it with grace. Together, the two welcomed children, with their daughters becoming the heartbeat of their relationship. Lara was known to be fiercely protective of his family, often keeping details private, but it was clear that fatherhood softened him in ways cricket never could. They have two daughters, Sydney Lara, born in 1996, named after the Sydney Cricket Ground in Australia, where Lara scored his first Test century, and Tyler Lara, born in 2010. Liesel's role was pivotal. While Lara remained in the limelight, she focused on providing a stable, nurturing environment for their children. She wasn't one to court cameras or tabloids. In fact, her avoidance of the spotlight only made her more respected. She was raising a family, not building a brand. The Lara household, split between the Caribbean and trips abroad, was filled with the rhythm of ordinary life, despite extraordinary circumstances. Brian would fly off for cricket commentary or charity events, but when home, he was Dad, before he was the Prince of Port of Spain. Lisel and Lara were not without challenges. Fame has a way of testing relationships. Rumors swirled occasionally about Lara's social life, about the strain of long-distance commitments. But through it all, Lisel remained a constant presence. She was his partner, his confidant, the one person who knew Brian Lara not as a cricketing demigod, but as the man behind the records, career and identity beyond Lara. While much of the world knows her as Brian Lara's partner, Leasel Rovedas has her own identity. Though she has largely avoided media exposure, those who know her describe her as a strong woman who values family and community. She has been involved in charity initiatives and often participates quietly in activities that support children and education in Trinidad and Tobago. She has never sought to be a celebrity. Unlike the spouses of some sporting legends who step into reality shows, endorsements, or the fashion world, Lisel has kept a low profile. Her focus has always been family and creating balance in a life where fame could easily consume everything. Brian Lara has long retired from international cricket, but his name remains immortal in the sport. He works as a commentator, analyst, and mentor, often appearing on major cricket networks during tournaments like the IPL and World Cups. He is also heavily involved in charity, especially projects connected to healthcare and children's welfare in the Caribbean. Lara's personality still shines. He is charismatic, humorous, and deeply proud of his legacy. Lisel, on the other hand, continues to stay away from the limelight. She is deeply private, raising her children and supporting Lara quietly from behind the scenes. Her life is not about paparazzi shots or magazine features. It's about family, love, and the values she grew up with. Together, they embody a partnership that has lasted through the storms of fame. Brian Lara's name will forever be in cricket's history books, but behind that name is Leasel Rovedas, the woman who shared the journey, the triumphs, and the struggles while building a life that was about more than cricket. Please subscribe for more.